Hookup. What would you do if the person you loved the most not only doubted your loyalty, but set a trap to test you? He hired strangers, involved the police, and froze all our accounts, all to see if my love was real. But in the game of betrayal and revenge, the real question was, who was the biggest fool? This is the story of a love tested by lies, a heart broken by betrayal, and a woman who refused to be anyone's pawn. The soft hum of a ceiling fan filled the living room, spinning lazily in the sticky afternoon air. Outside, the world felt still, as though it were holding its breath. Inside, Benny Jackson was sprawled on the couch, tapping his fingers impatiently against the armrest while his girlfriend, CIA, balanced a small cake box in her hands. "We've got a couple of hours before my wife gets home," Benny said with a smirk. His voice carried that low, conspiratorial tone he always used when they were together in this house, his house, but with someone who wasn't supposed to be here. CIA rolled her eyes. 2 hours is so short. Then let's not waste a single minute, Benny replied, leaning in toward her. She tilted her head, her dark hair brushing her cheek. "Is it your birthday today?" "No," Benny said with a small chuckle. "Probably some anniversary my wife set up. She's always planning, planning, planning. I'm so sick of her." His voice trailed off, a note of bitterness curling in it. CIA grinned. Taste?" Benny blinked. "Taste? I mean, since we're here, let's have a cake. Which part do you want? The flour side or the extra frosting side?" He rubbed his chin in mock thought. "The extra frosting side." She lifted an eyebrow. "Oh, wait, actually the flour side," he said quickly, changing his mind. CIA laughed and began slicing. But just as she was about to hand him the plate, Benny's phone buzzed on the table. He glanced at the screen. "It's her," he murmured. "My wife." The casual smirk faded, replaced by a flicker of nervous energy. He answered quickly. A short conversation later, Benny hung up, his eyes wide. "She says she's not coming back until tomorrow." CIA's face lit up. "So, let's save the cake for later?" He grinned, leaning closer. "Oh yeah, woohoo. Wait, babe, I'll be right back," CIA said, stepping into the kitchen. Her heels clicked softly on the hardwood floor. The front door rattled. Benny frowned. Who the hell? Before he could move, a shadow slipped inside. A woman in dark jeans, a leather jacket, and a cap pulled low over her face stepped into the living room. In one hand, she held a half-open backpack. In the other, a crowbar. "You've got 5 seconds to get out of here," Benny barked, stepping toward her. She didn't flinch. Instead, she smiled. "Nice place." "Who are you?" "The owner of the house," she said coolly. Benny's mind stalled. "What? No, you're not." I'm the owner. The woman's eyes glittered with quiet amusement. CIA told me she's with my husband right now. Who's cheating on me? Benny blinked. Wait, what? 1 hour anniversary, she said, almost to herself, her voice sharp with irony. Exactly. Benny opened his mouth, but she cut him off. I'm getting off track. What was that you were doing before? Oh, yes. Slipping pills into a drink? His jaw tightened. Look, lady, you need to. Quiet. Her tone sliced through the air like a knife. You are a terrible robber. The crowbar clinked as she set it on the coffee table. Awake now, sleeping beauty, she added under her breath, almost as if speaking to herself. Listen, she continued, stepping closer until Benny could smell faint traces of coffee and perfume. You want to be a burglar? You've got two choices. Meet some friendly cops, or do exactly what I tell you. Benny hesitated. Which option will it be? Her lips curled. Option 1 or option 2? Option 2, he muttered. Good. She crossed her arms. Here's the deal. You're going to rob this place. He blinked again. I was already doing that. Not like this, she said. There's a catch. You only steal what belongs to my husband. His laptop, his PlayStation, his fancy relics. Deal? Benny frowned. You have a really amazing plan for revenge. You're welcome, she replied, her voice flat. Give me back my jewelry. CIA's voice suddenly rang from behind them. She stood frozen in the doorway, her eyes darting from the stranger to Benny. The woman smirked. Oh, I'm so sorry. She tossed the jewelry back into CIA's hands. Go to the police station, she said with a hint of sarcasm. Jeremy's going to cry over that. CIA stared, then turned to Benny. Nice work, she said coldly. Benny exhaled sharply. Yeah, thanks. So, where are you going? The stranger shrugged. Not sure yet. Oh, how about coming with me? Benny asked without thinking. She tilted her head. I forgot something. The sound of a key in the front door sliced the moment in half. Honey, I'm home. A warm, familiar voice called. Benny froze. Honey, I thought you said tomorrow. The door swung open, and his wife stepped inside, her gaze sweeping over the scene. Benny standing with a stranger, CIA clutching jewelry, the coffee table scattered with unfamiliar objects. The stranger smiled thinly. Looks like you've been dumped. Benny's wife crossed her arms. Looks like not only me. Benny's throat went dry. I'm leaving you. The stranger snatched up the PlayStation from the shelf, holding it high like a trophy. Thanks for the PlayStation. And just like that, she was gone, leaving Benny standing in the wreckage of his own afternoon, the air heavy with betrayal. Rachel and the mother's disapproval. 2 days later, The sting of humiliation still clung to Benny like a second skin. The PlayStation was gone. CIA had vanished without a trace, and his wife had left him without so much as a backward glance. The silence of the house was deafening, broken only by the occasional creak of the wooden floorboards under his restless pacing. Benny was tired of feeling pitiful. He needed a distraction, something or someone to take his mind off the mess his life had become. That distraction arrived the next evening in the form of Rachel. They met at a small art gallery opening downtown. She was standing in front of a painting, a swirl of blues and golds that looked like a storm breaking over an ocean when he first noticed her. She wore a black dress that clung to her in all the right places, her hair tumbling over her shoulders in soft waves. But it wasn't just her beauty that caught him. It was the way she studied the painting with a furrowed brow, as if she were searching for a secret hidden in the colors. He approached, wine glass in hand. "Beautiful, isn't it?" She glanced at him, her lips curving into a polite smile. "It is, but also chaotic, like life," he said, half joking. Her smile deepened. "Exactly." They talked for the rest of the night, moving from paintings to travel stories to favorite books. Benny found himself laughing, genuinely laughing, for the first time in weeks. By the time the gallery lights dimmed, they'd exchanged numbers. 1 week later, Benny invited Rachel to his house for dinner. He wanted it to be special. He ordered her favorite takeout, set the table with candles, and even put on soft jazz in the background. The evening was going perfectly until the doorbell rang. Benny opened the door to find his mother standing there, her hair neatly styled, her handbag perched on her forearm like a shield. "Mom," he said, startled. "What are you?" "I was in the neighborhood," she said briskly, stepping past him into the house. Then her gaze landed on Rachel. "Hello," Rachel said warmly, standing to greet her. "You must be Mrs. Jackson. It's so nice to meet you." His mother's eyes narrowed slightly. "Wish I could say the same." Benny felt his stomach drop. "Mom, is she in a scandal?" His mother cut in. Rachel blinked. "Excuse me, you really think I don't know the type of woman who would be interested in my son?" she said, her tone sharp. "Mom, please." Benny tried again. "We love each other," Benny insisted. "We?" His mother's eyebrow arched. "You love her body, and she loves your money." "That's not true," Benny said firmly. Rachel, cheeks flushing, kept her voice steady. "I'm finishing my modeling school." His mother's lips curled faintly, almost in a smirk. "So you'll believe it when his mother approves of you?" "That's enough, Mom," Benny snapped. "I've already proposed to Rachel, and we're going to be married." The room went silent. His mother stared at him, her expression unreadable. "So you've already made a decision without me?" she said finally. Yes, Benny said, holding Rachel's hand. His mother's gaze shifted to Rachel, a storm brewing behind her eyes. We'll see. The next morning, Benny sat in his office, a cup of coffee cooling beside his laptop. He was in the middle of a virtual business meeting when his phone buzzed. A message from his mother. We needed to talk. That evening, she arrived at his place again, this time with a small envelope in her hand. She didn't bother with pleasantries. I have to tell you something, she said, her voice low. Benny sighed. Mom, these, she said, tossing the envelope onto the coffee table, are photos from dating sites. She's everywhere. And she describes herself, interestingly enough, as a woman interested in a relationship for money. Benny stared at the pictures. Rachel's face smiled back at him from profile after profile. Did you know about this? His mother pressed. Her past is not interesting to me, he said finally. Oh, really? And you don't mind that she was already married? He froze. Did she tell you about it? She said nothing about it, his mother replied. Something heavy settled in Benny's stomach. His name is Andre, she continued. I wonder why she would hide him from you. I have no clue, Benny said, though the certainty in his voice was gone. His mother's tone softened slightly. Now you have time to think alone. Remember, no one takes care of you like your mother. Benny sat in the quiet house long after she left, the envelope still on the table, the weight of doubt pressing hard against his chest. The old friend, Benny tried to push the envelope of dating site photos out of his mind. He told himself his mother was overreacting. She always had been protective, sometimes to the point of obsession. Rachel had been nothing but caring since they met. Still, the images haunted him. Why didn't she tell me about being married? He wanted to confront her, but he also feared the answer. 3 days later, he came home from a long day at work, expecting Rachel to greet him with her usual warmth. Instead, he found her sitting on the living room couch with another man. The stranger was tall, lean, dressed casually in jeans and a gray sweater. He stood when Benny walked in, a smile spreading across his face. Honey, Rachel said quickly, setting her coffee cup down. You're back. We were waiting for you. Where have you been? Benny didn't answer right away. His eyes flicked between them. I asked you, who is this? Rachel brushed her hair behind her ear. This is my friend, old friend, Andre. He popped into the city unexpectedly. Andre stepped forward, extending his hand. Rachel's told me so much about you. Benny's gaze hardened. She said nothing about you. There was an awkward beat. Rachel broke the tension. Benny, you want some champagne? He looked at the empty bottle on the coffee table. It's empty. Rachel laughed lightly. We actually drank everything. Or spilled Everything. Andre chuckled. That was my fault. I wanted to show off. So I opened the bottle spectacularly, but ended up spraying us and your lovely carpet. Sorry about that. Benny forced a tight smile. No problem. I'll just bill you. Rachel shot him a warning glance. Honey, come on. It's okay, Andre said quickly. I really messed things up. I'll just go. No, wait. Rachel started, but he was already grabbing his coat. It was nice meeting you, Benny, Andre said. We'll get together again sometime. Sure, Benny replied flatly. The door closed behind him, leaving an uncomfortable silence. Later that night, Rachel appeared in the doorway of Benny's study, holding a mug. Honey, I made you a coffee. He didn't look up from his laptop. Thanks. She set it down on the desk. How are you feeling? Before he could answer, the sound of heavy knocks rattled the front door. Benny frowned. Who the hell? When he opened the door, 2 uniformed police officers stood there. Benjamin Jackson? One asked. Yes. You're under arrest on suspicion of fraud. What? Benny's heart pounded. This is ridiculous. Do you have a warrant? The officer stepped forward. All your accounts will be frozen during the investigation. Rachel's voice came from behind him, trembling. Honey, what should I do? Benny turned to her. Just stay here and wait for me, okay? She nodded, eyes wide, but said nothing. Hours later, Benny returned home, exhausted. Rachel rushed to the door. Honey, they let you go? Yeah, he said, dropping his coat on the chair. Rachel, where is our stuff? Her hands twisted nervously. I moved it to our new apartment. I didn't know what to do, so I found a cheaper place for us. And I also got a job as a waitress. Benny blinked. You found a job? Yes, she said quickly. So we can have more money for a lawyer. Benny stared at her for a moment, then sighed. About that, there were no real accusations. Her brow furrowed. What do you mean? I just wanted to check and see if you were with me only for the money. And I'm glad you're not. Rachel's lips parted. Wait, you set me up? He shifted uncomfortably. Yeah, well, to be honest, you surprised me. She shook her head. Those dating profiles are not real, Benny. They're not mine. It happens to models all the time. You should have just asked me. Benny swallowed hard. And Andre? Why didn't you tell me you were married? It wasn't important. The marriage was fake. He needed citizenship. And actually, she gave a small laugh. He's gay. Benny stared at her, the puzzle pieces falling into place. Slowly, he felt the tension in his chest ease. But Rachel's expression was no longer soft, it was hurt. Benny's mind churned as Rachel stood in front of him, arms crossed, her eyes shining, not with tears, but with a cold, wounded clarity. Do you remember how we met? she asked quietly. He hesitated. What are you getting at? Answer me. He exhaled slowly. Of course, I remember. You were standing in the rain, waiting for a bus that never came. I I went to the store and bought you an umbrella. Rachel's voice softened. You didn't say a word. You just put it next to me and walked away. That's what made me notice you. That's what got me. She paused, her eyes narrowing. How could I have known you were rich? Benny's mouth opened, but nothing came out. She continued, her voice tightening. You were right. Real love doesn't care about money. But you had to test me. You had to set me up with the police. Freeze your own accounts. Watch me scramble like I was some gold digger waiting to run. I was scared, he said finally. Scared that I'd leave? She cut in sharply. Do you have any idea how cruel that was? I just needed to be sure. Rachel's lips trembled, not from sadness, but from the effort of holding herself together. How will I ever know you won't do it again? Every time someone whispers something about me, will you test me? Watch me suffer just to prove I care? Benny stepped forward. Rachel, no. She took a step back, her heels clicking against the hardwood. You've already decided who the most important woman in your life is. What does that mean? It means goodbye, Benny. The word goodbye hit him like a blunt weapon. She turned, grabbed her bag from the couch, and walked toward the door. Rachel, wait. His voice cracked, but she didn't stop. The door closed behind her with a finality that sucked the air out of the room. For a long time, Benny stood frozen, staring at the empty space where she had been. His thoughts raced, but each one slammed into a wall of regret. He'd wanted to protect himself, to be smart, but instead, he'd managed to destroy the very thing he claimed to treasure. The house felt colder that night. Even the hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen seemed accusatory, like the walls themselves were saying, "You did this." The next morning, Benny's mother showed up unannounced, carrying a grocery bag. I brought you some soup, she said, stepping inside as if nothing unusual had happened. Benny didn't look at her. She's gone. His mother set the bag on the counter, her expression unreadable. I told you. Don't, Benny said sharply. Don't tell me you were right, she sighed. Then I'll just say I'll find you someone better. Someone who won't. Stop. His voice was low but firm. You don't get to pick who I love. His mother pursed her lips but said nothing more. She busied herself with unpacking the soup, humming quietly, as though filling the silence with a song could erase the emptiness in the house. Later that evening, Benny sat on the couch, staring at the blank TV screen. The faint sound of rain tapped against the windows. He thought about Rachel's umbrella, the one she still kept, the one that had started it all. He thought about the way she had looked at him during their first date before suspicion had poisoned everything. Somewhere across the city, she was probably unpacking boxes in her new apartment, starting her new job, moving on. And Benny was left with nothing but the echo of her footsteps as she'd walked away. Part 5. Moving on. The rain hadn't stopped in 3 days. It was the kind of steady, cold drizzle that seeped into your bones, making the air smell like wet asphalt and earth. Benny watched it from his office window, a half-finished cup of coffee cooling on his desk. He hadn't been sleeping much. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Rachel walking out the door. Her absence had carved a hollow space inside him. The silence in the house wasn't peaceful. It was accusing. He caught himself glancing toward the kitchen in the mornings, expecting to see her hair spilling over her shoulders as she stirred coffee, only to find the counter bare. Rachel's new life. Across town, Rachel's life had shifted into a new rhythm. The apartment she'd found wasn't large, a small one-bedroom with creaky floors and a view of a laundromat across the street, but it was hers. The walls were bare except for a single framed print of a rainy street, the kind she had always loved. Her waitressing job wasn't glamorous. The diner smelled faintly of fried food, and the shifts were long. But there was a strange comfort in the routine, taking orders, refilling coffee, exchanging small talk with regulars who didn't care about her past. Some nights, when the place was quiet, she thought about Benny, about the umbrella, about the laughter they'd shared before suspicion crept in. But then she'd remember the police, the frozen accounts, the test, and the hurt would return, pushing away the nostalgia. A chance encounter. One rainy evening, Benny found himself driving aimlessly, the city blurred by in streaks of red and gold from traffic lights reflecting on wet pavement. Without thinking, he pulled over near a diner. Through the fogged window, he saw her. Rachel was behind the counter, her hair pulled back, smiling faintly as she poured coffee for a customer. She looked different, not in appearance. She was still the same Rachel, but in the way she carried herself. There was a lightness to her posture, as if she'd shed a weight he hadn't realized he'd placed on her. Benny stayed in the car. He didn't go in. Part of him wanted to explain, to apologize again, to tell her he still loved her. But another part knew that barging back into her life might only reopen wounds. So he watched for a few minutes, then drove away, the unsaid goodbye. Weeks passed. Benny threw himself into work, trying to fill the void. His mother visited often, bringing food, offering to introduce him to someone suitable, but he always turned her down. One Sunday afternoon, while sorting through a box of old things, Benny found it, the umbrella. It was the same cheap, black one he had bought years ago, the one that had started everything. He opened it in the middle of the living room, the fabric rustling like soft whispers. For a moment, he could almost see her again, standing in the rain, glancing at him with surprise as he placed it beside her. A sudden knock on the door broke the memory. He closed the umbrella and opened the door, only to find an empty hallway. On the floor was a small cardboard box. Inside was his PlayStation. No note, no explanation. Just the console, clean and carefully wrapped in bubble wrap. Benny sat on the couch, running a hand over it. He couldn't help but smile, not because he cared about the console, but because he knew who had sent it. Rachel's perspective. The decision to return it hadn't been easy. She'd held onto it for weeks, unsure if sending it back would make her look petty or foolish. In the end, she decided it wasn't about him, it was about her. Letting go of the last piece of his world meant she could fully step into her own. She didn't include a note because there was nothing left to say. The chapter had closed. The final crossroads. One late afternoon, months later, Benny spotted Rachel again, this time on a crowded street, sunlight breaking through the clouds in sharp beams. She was with a friend, laughing, her face lit up in a way he hadn't seen since before everything fell apart. She noticed him across the street. For a heartbeat, the city noise seemed to fade. They looked at each other, two people who had once loved deeply, now standing on opposite sides of a road neither was willing to cross. Benny gave a small nod. She returned it. Then the crowd shifted, and she was gone. Epilogue. Benny never did replace the umbrella. He kept it in the corner of his closet, a quiet reminder of how love had begun and how it had slipped away. Rachel moved forward, building a life that was hers alone, one not defined by tests, suspicions, or someone else's doubts. They never spoke again, but sometimes, when rain tapped softly against the windows, they both thought of that first day, that small act of kindness, and the way it had almost been enough. Almost